I drove through half a snowstorm to get there, and before dessert, my son looked me in the eye and said, "I wish you weren't here." The room froze. Laughter died, forks hovered, even the soft jazz seemed to cut out. Mark stood across the marble island in his navy suit, wine glass in hand, perfectly at home in that curated, gleaming world. In the reflection of the oven door, I saw myself, small, shoulders still hunched from the cold, wrapped in the red scarf my late husband, Louise, once said made me look like Christmas. I straightened it, as if that tiny gesture could keep me from folding. I chose not to give him my anger. "I see," I said, my voice calm while my heart shook. Andrea rushed in with a bright, brittle laugh. "Oh, Mark, you know how mothers are during the holidays. So much fuss." The rosemary roast I'd once taught her to make filled the room with warmth that suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else's mother. "Mom, you make things complicated," Mark added. "Tonight is supposed to be relaxed, and you bring tension." I thought of the star-shaped cookies in my bag, of Sophia's favorite cinnamon tea, of the hours in my quiet kitchen. "Complicated is what family is," I said softly. "Not everything has to be about you, Mom," he snapped. Andrea's smile never faltered as she smoothed it over. "Maybe next year something simpler. No storm drives. No big homemade dinners. They could just cater. Smaller holidays, I understood. A smaller place for me." At the end of the table, Sophia's small voice slipped through. "I think Grandma's dinner is perfect," she whispered, but Andrea talked over her and Mark raised his glass. "To simpler holidays," he said, casual on the surface, sharp underneath. "Know your place." I stood. "I think I should go." "Dinner was lovely," I said, because rage would only be a gift. As I walked past, Sophia tugged my sleeve. "Grandma, will you come to my recital next month?" "Always," I promised. She pressed a little friendship bracelet into my palm, red and gold. "So you don't forget me." My voice cracked once, only once, as I told her, "You can never be forgotten." At the door, Mark called, "You can't keep holding things over me." I didn't turn. "Don't worry," I said. "You've taken care of that for me." Outside, the Chicago night was harsh and honest. Snow glittered under the streetlights as I walked to my car, the bracelet warm against my wrist, red for love, gold for warning. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. "So be it," I whispered into the cold. For the first time, it felt less like surrender and more like a door opening. The next morning, sunlight flashed over a crust of ice outside my Ravenswood apartment. Inside, I sat at my small kitchen table with a mug of tea, hearing the same line on repeat. "You make things complicated." I pulled out the binder I'd been pretending not to see for months. Trust documents, bank statements, receipts. Louise and I had built that trust to protect Mark, to make sure he was never alone. We had imagined emergencies, not tailored suits and dinner parties, but the numbers told another story. Hotel charges with no trips, repairs that had never happened, transfers labeled temporary. In each line I heard him, "Mom, it's only for a week. Mom, you worry too much. Mom, I'll fix it." Every mom had arrived attached to a request. Every request had chipped away at something I'd mistaken for unconditional love. A tired clarity rose in me. I had confused love with letting him walk over me. So I took the binder downtown to see Gloria, the attorney who had helped Louise and me create the trust. I told her about the withdrawals, the lies, the way I felt more like an open vault than a mother. She listened, then said, "This isn't about patience anymore, Helen. It's about protecting your property and your peace." Together we made a plan. Transfer the Albany Park duplex into a new LLC with me as sole manager, freeze the trust, remove Mark as co-trustee, change every password and access. The first time I signed my name on those documents, something shifted quietly inside. Not revenge, not punishment, just finally believing what I already knew. At the recorder's office, the clerk stamped each paper: transfer of ownership, updated authorization, removal of Mark. Each thud sounded like a door closing on a hallway I no longer needed to walk. On the way home, I stopped at the duplex and slid certified letters through the mail slot, setting out the changes in calm, unemotional language. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and began shutting off lifelines. The automatic HOA payment, the quiet credit card sweeps, the temporary deposits I'd been sending to help with Andrea's car loan. Years of silent enabling unraveled in less than an hour. Resentment rose not toward their need, but toward the way we had all pretended it was normal. When I pulled into my building's lot, Andrea and Sophia were waiting on the steps. Sophia ran to me and pressed a small clay bird into my hand. "I made this for you," she said. Andrea's voice was weary. "I didn't come to argue," she whispered. "I didn't realize how much Mark was leaning on you. I thought he had it under control. I'm sorry, Helen." "We're all seeing more clearly now," I said, and it was true. The fallout rolled in fast. Mark's first voicemail was tight and rushed, "Mom, we need to fix this," and I deleted it halfway through. The next messages were longer and angrier. "You blindsided me. You're destroying everything I built. You owe me that conversation." That word owe was stuck to my skin. I had owed him food, love, a roof when he was a boy. I did not owe him my peace or my retirement. His firm called him into a compliance meeting. His credit lines froze. The townhouse went up for sale. Furniture and art vanishing piece by piece. Andrea and Sophia moved in with her sister for a while and came to my small apartment for simple dinners that tasted more of truth than of comfort. I didn't say, "Now you know how I felt." I didn't need to. Pain was finally teaching what my warnings never had. Meanwhile, my days slowly stopped orbiting Mark's emergencies. I began unlocking the door each morning to a small Pilsen storefront that would soon become Pan Dulce Castillo, the bakery I dreamed of for years and always delayed. The air smelled of fresh paint and possibility. Andrea helped sort recipes and paperwork. Sophia stacked napkins and drew tiny birds in the corners of menus. Neighbors drifted in with flowers, old family recipes, and soft words. This neighborhood needed a place like this. For the first time in years, my future felt like something I was building with my own hands. One afternoon, a quiet knock sounded at the bakery door. I looked up and saw Mark standing outside in a plain coat, no suit, no polished confidence, just a tired man with the strain finally visible on his face. I let him in. His eyes moved slowly over the trays of rising dough, the handwritten signs, the warm lights. "You did all this?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "With help." He swallowed. "I didn't come to argue. I came to say I'm sorry." He held out an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and a repayment plan, small amounts over many months, with no excuses in between. Behind it was a velvet pouch. I opened it and found Louise's watch, the one we'd planned to give Mark when he reached a milestone worth celebrating. He stared at it and shook his head. "I don't deserve it," he whispered. "Not yet." For years I had begged him silently to understand the difference between needing help and expecting it, between making a mistake and making it everyone else's burden. Standing in my bakery, he finally seemed to see it. "We can talk," I said, "but only if it's honest, and only if you're willing to do the work." He nodded, eyes bright, and for once didn't look away. Andrea stepped from the back, cautious but hopeful. Sophia ran to her father and wrapped her arms around his leg, clinging to him and to the possibility of something better. The four of us stood together in that small, warm space, not healed, not fixed, but no longer pretending. It wasn't the beginning he had planned for himself, but it was the one we could actually live with. Later, after they left, I locked the bakery and walked down toward the lake. Winter was loosening its grip. Dark water showed through the last, thin ice. I sat on a bench and held Sophia's clay bird in my hand, feeling its small, solid weight. I thought about the years I'd spent holding everyone together, about the night my son told me he wished I weren't there, about the signatures that finally said I was. I wasn't waiting to be needed or thanked anymore. I wasn't measuring my worth by how much I could give away. I had chosen myself, and the world had not ended. "Let the next chapter be calm," I whispered to the water. "Let it be mine." As I stood to go, a quiet gratitude settled inside me for the hurt that forced me to change, for the bakery, for the clay bird warming in my palm. And if anyone has stayed too long where love turned one-sided, I hope they hear this clearly. You're allowed to choose yourself, too.